Let's Cover That podcast is brought to you by CM&F Group, professional liability services for over 200 healthcare professions. Visit our website at cmfgroup.com/podcast for more info.
Hey everybody, Will Sullivan here with another episode of Let's Cover That with my co-host
Antonina Agruza. And today we have with us Mike Telem, co-founder and chief business officer at Kemtai. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today all the way from Israel.
Thanks, it's my pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Of course. So Mike, tell us a little bit about your background in tech and healthcare and how it led you to Kemtai.
Sure. So I've been in tech for, I guess, more than 20 years now. Was fortunate enough to experience all bubbles. So I started out just before the first dot-com bubble. For the first year, I thought about I'm probably going to get rich within 18 months, and then the whole thing exploded. But I stick to it. I liked being around tech and doing things that could potentially change things for the better. Worked in big companies and small companies. I also always loved sports. I used to play squash, for those who know what that is, kind of like racquetball. Did a lot of martial arts. Nowadays, I love swimming. So wellness, fitness, and tech have always been a part of my life. I had a previous startup I founded in 2009 that was eventually acquired by an American company called Marketo on the West Coast in 2014. So this is my second startup, Kemtai, which deals a lot with health, of course, MSK issues, physio, and other issues. And for that, I guess my experience is more as a patient. I have 2 herniated discs. Squash probably has something to do with that. Sprinting and stopping too many times in 1 hour. So I've done my fair share of physiotherapy, tech, wellness, fitness, physio. That's kind of my world and what helped brew Kemtai together with my 2 co-founders, Mor Amitai and Naomi Karen.
Yeah, so why don't you just start walking us into that, Mike, about Kemtai?
So
what is it? Where is it kind of hitting the market? What's the gap it's filling?
Yeah. Kemtai is a computer vision exercise platform, first and foremost. And it basically turns any device that has a camera, whether it's a computer or a mobile device, a laptop, a tablet, a phone, into sort of a digital therapist or a digital trainer. We're using advanced computer vision and AI to analyze the way that you move and provide feedback and guidance based on what we wanted you to do. A lot of these markets, whether it's fitness or physio and MSK, are very much were very much unchanged in the past 20, 30, 40 years, where it's still very brick and mortar. You have to go to the clinic, get a session, get some guidance, and then they would almost always send you home with a home exercise protocol, because that's how you get better, right? If you have lower back issues, neck issues, hip issues, it's the exercising that gets you better. But you need to do the exercise, and you need to do it correctly. And in 99% of the cases, you're being sent home with a PDF with pictures or with a link to a video, a passive video. Same sort of video we had 40, 50 years ago with Jane Fonda, but it's on a mobile device. Okay. But you have no idea if you're doing it right or wrong. And by the way, you're a therapist. Your doctor has no idea if you've done it or did not do it. So with Kemtai, we're really extending the reach of the physiotherapist, for example, because the solutions for MSK issues, the 3 main solutions are exercising correctly, painkillers, and surgery. So you don't want to do the latter 2. You want to make sure that exercising works and does its magic, and it does. And motion and exercising and mobility are so helpful for everybody, so important for our health. So with Kemtai, they can prescribe specific exercises. And even if you're at home, Kemtai will make sure that you're doing them correctly. It will tell you that your left shoulder is too low. It will tell you that you're bending your back too much when you're doing a squat. It is as good or almost as good as having that therapist at home with you. Now, if you're not a pro athlete or extremely rich, you're not going to have a therapist or a trainer at home with you. So Kemtai provides that using AI and computer vision.
So it's really interesting you say that because, with your background, like you said, in health and fitness, and actually you're just doing it physically, you know, you have a different understanding of how to do a squat than maybe the average person who hasn't played squash all their life or been into martial arts. So you have that one hurdle that you have with people, but then in addition to that, you know, physiologically, you also have people who are just hurt. And then, the squat, you can't go all the way down and get your butt all the way down. You have to adjust where your knee placement is, or wherever the case may be. And my background, I similarly growing up with sports, I've been injured a lot, been to physical therapy a lot. And there's a lot of tweaks that you get in person that you don't get by yourself at home.
Yeah,
The One of the interesting things about it, Mike, is so your technology is doing it without you attached to a piece of technology. So like a
correct.
lot of those fitness platforms now, they have connection to you, whether it's like a tonal or a Peloton, the rowing machines come out and can kind of give you advice on like how you're moving. But can you explain how does the technology do this without actually touching the human per se?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, even Peloton and Tonal don't have much in the sense of posture and motion tracking. But those few companies that do, typically use wearables and sensors or complicated devices. So you need to put
Yeah.
something on you, which means
Hmm.
someone needs to ship it to you, which means it's expensive, plus it's cumbersome, plus you may put it on the wrong place or not exactly at the right place. Kemtai is using computer vision that, until the past few years, was simply not accurate enough, not robust enough. But with our proprietary algorithms, we see you exactly the same way that a human would see you. So just like the physiotherapist, if he were right now in front of you in your office, seeing your shoulders, he immediately sees, oh, you're slouching a little bit to the right? It's easy for them to see. The fact that I have background in sports does not even mean that I see myself. And to your point, does not mean that I know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, which might not be typically not what I used to be able to do, right? Especially if I'm post some sort of injury. So Kemtai analyzes your body, 44 different points. Kemtai understands this is your shoulder, this is your elbow, and it does this just based on your camera. The camera itself can be any camera. So the smarter in the software, we taught the Kemtai software to understand your different parts of your body to a relatively specific level, right? All the different joints and angles. And we taught Kemtai to understand movement. And then the third piece, the essential piece, is to compare that movement to the video that you were asked to follow. So your physiotherapist says, you should do this, this, and this at home. And you should do this version of those exercises. So for your point, you should do the half sumo squat because you have an injury to your knee. We don't want you to do the full one. And then when you go home, you watch a video of the specific way, the specific type, and the specific way that you should be doing this exercise. And Kemtai literally compares what it sees you doing and what it sees the model video, right? And it provides feedback and scoring, telling you how close you were to what you were supposed to be doing. So it will give you a 70 for this specific repetition. For instance, you go down and up, that squat, it'll say 70. And it will tell you because your knees, you bent your knees too much actually, which you're not supposed to do, or your back was not straight. So in real time, and that's very important, if you get a report 2 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour after you've done something, you will understand it, but it will be very difficult for you to fix it next time that you do it. But if someone is right there, kind of tapping you on the shoulder, look at your knee now. Do you see that it's too far out? Then you get it. You're like, oh yeah, I feel it. Next repetition, I'll do it better. Score will go a little bit higher. You have that immediate connection with Kemtai because the software literally speaks to you via your device speakers and tells you how well you're doing and what you need to do it better.
Mike, how do people reach your platform? Can the general consumer that has, had an injury just come onto your platform and utilize it, or do they have to be prescribed it by a physical therapist or physiotherapist?
So our main go-to-market is actually B2B, which means we integrate or we enable other companies to integrate Kemtai or white label Kemtai into their offerings. A few examples that I can mention that are already using Kemtai are companies like Recovery One or 180 MSK, just to name a couple. Yes, you can still browse to Kemtai.com, and we have some free exercises and some paid programs, but that is not our focus area. It might be in the future, not right now. So it's a B2B play, and you should definitely ask, your therapist, your clinic, your insurance company, your digital provider, whether they have something like this. And we are working to get Kemtai integrated into more and more services. We think that there are several ways of getting to the patient to serve you and your issue, right? And instead of us trying to cover them all, we just want to work with all the companies that provide that type of service. And it's also extremely helpful for those companies, not only because they provide you with superior treatment, right, with a better way, with a quicker way to heal yourself, but also they get the data that they can more proactively engage with you on a personalized manner and help motivate you. Data helps motivate users, patients, because if you see your progress, one of the problems with physiotherapy that in the first few weeks you may not see any progress. Now there is small progress. Now think of the dramatic change that sports watches, the smartwatches did for running. Suddenly you can run and just improve a few seconds per mile, which is not dramatic, right? But you see it. You're like, oh, I'm doing better than last week. And this next week, I'm doing better again. And I can share it and I can talk about it. And it motivates me. Well, the same thing goes for physiotherapy. You do a range of motion test with Kemtai. Oh, I got a 73, not a 71. Or I got to, 60 degrees and not 58 degrees of motion. It might be small, but it's very motivating for me.
It's amazing. Just to your point, Mike, it's, if you have clinics, you have healthcare entities who are trying to scale out, sending somebody home with a program is one way, sending somebody in your home is another way, but having the technology like this really gives scalability to really like push forward
Yeah, when you
on
think
this.
about it, adherence rate. So the main tool that the physiotherapist has is the home exercise protocols, because you're going to see the therapist once a week, once in 2 weeks. So that can't be too effective, right? They will almost always send you with exercise to do at home. The average adherence rate is less than 9%. So less than 1 out of 10 people will actually do the exercise, not to mention if they're doing it correctly or not. With Kemtai, you can make sure that they're doing it and make sure that they're doing it correctly and even give them a better experience. So I think any clinician, any doctor, any provider should love offering that. And with Kemtai, the fact that you don't need sensors, wearables, or anything, it's not expensive anymore. It's not a hassle anymore. You just pop up your phone and log in, get the exercises that your therapist prescribed for you, and go ahead and do them in a guided way. You're sure that you're doing it correctly.
That's amazing, Mike. That stat of 9% adherence rate is just immense. Do you find any kind of looking forward to the future? Even myself, I'm at a stand-up desk most of the day, but when you think about the musculoskeletal capabilities, it almost makes me think, is there things, especially athletically, proactively that you're doing? So when you guys are looking for, future milestones, are there ones, that, you'd like to highlight now, Mike, before we
Well,
close
I
up?
think that other than, obviously we want to work with as many clinic chains and digital providers and healthcare providers and hospitals as possible, allow everybody access to this. And part of what we're trying to do is really democratize great medical service in these aspects, MSK. I think that one of the things that can really help contribute to global health really is provide basic mobility exercises that people can do between Zooms, while they're at home. Trying to get people, it doesn't have to be fitness, like it doesn't have to be a hard 45-minute workout. Just move, right? And if we can create some basic programs that help you measure whether you're moving correctly, and just even measure that you've done your movements 3 times a day, just like the doctor ordered, right? If we can expand to those things, if we can expand to elder care, if we can expand to children, right? Technologically, it's all the same for Kemtai, but obviously these are different markets, different audiences. Hence why we chose to the B2B route. We think we can get this to more people faster than trying to do everything on our own.
Super innovative. I love it. Is there anything else that you would love our listeners to know before we wrap it up, Mike?
I think that, this just potentially highlight this market. I think really craves innovation. Digital kind of skipped on this area in the market, even though it is the largest, to the best of my knowledge, is the largest healthcare spend in the US. Is not cancer, is not diabetes, it's MSK issues. So it's a huge thing. Almost all of us suffer from it one time or other. Lower back pain is the biggest cause of disability in 160 different countries. And these types of technologies, not just Kemtai, can really, really help people recover much, much faster and remain healthy and prevent any issues. So for anybody that's hearing it, this exists, this works. Ask it from your doctor, expect it from your provider, and hopefully, we can help everybody feel better.
Yeah, that's a great way to close it up. It's just scaling out the ability for people to stay healthy, get healthy, and prevent, anybody with a back issue's ever had that, for darn sure never wants to have it again. So, I think that's pretty good proof there. So thank you so much, Mike, for hopping on.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for everybody listening out there.
And that's another episode of Let's Cover That.